Alive.
Push the button. Right. Good afternoon and welcome to today's Special Licensing Committee meeting. I am Councillor Jeremy Cottam, the chairman of the committee. I am supported today by the members of the committee who are Councillors Phil Barnett, Billy Drummond, Paul Kander, David Marsh, Tom McCann, Stephanie Stevenson, Clive Taylor and Martha Vickers. We have officers Julia O'Brien, Sean Murphy and Riley Timney, the officers who will be advising the meeting. Ben Ryan is in attendance as the clerk to the committee and the Zoom host is Sam Chiverton. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube so members of the public are able to follow the proceedings. Please can I ask everyone present in the meeting area to make sure when speaking to be loud and clear on the microphone so that those at home can hear you. Can I also ask you to make sure that if you put your mobile phones to silent and have turned the sound off on your tablets. If we hear the evacuation alarm this afternoon, we must leave the building immediately. Please proceed via the safe emergency exits, routes which will be shown to us by the trained officers. Please follow any instructions given by these officers. The assembly point is the Dolphin Car Park. Anyone requiring help will be assisted accordingly by these officers. Do members have any questions in which this meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair. I don't think my name was on the list you read out. It's Councillor Nigel Foot.
You're absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, that. Thank you. Right. In that case, we move to apologies.
Chairman, we've received apologies from Councillor Paul Dick, who may be joining us a bit later, and Councillor Jane Langford.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Does any member have any declaration of interest regarding the items on the agenda this evening?
No, Chairman.
Yes. Have you been advised of any?
I've not been advised of any declarations before the meeting.
Thank you. Right, now as we move to item 3, as this is a formal meeting and we do have some members of the public who wish to speak, we need to suspend. Oh, sorry. No, first of all, over to you to introduce the meeting, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So, with your indulgence, before I get into the presentation about the body of the report, if I can, I would just like to make a couple of wider points. Firstly, I would like to apologise to this committee for the delay that this and the time that this has taken to bring this policy to the committee. Obviously, and also for the cancellation of the meeting in September. I would also like to offer a similar apology to the trade. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
I could talk about absences and all sorts of reasons, but we are where we are and the report is here today.
We will.
So I would also basically like, before we start, to recognise the contribution of the trade to the development of this policy over the entire period, but particularly in the intense period since what would have been the September meeting. So the work over the last few weeks and months basically has been really important. And in particular, I'd like to thank Richard, Deborah Brown, Teal Taxis, Matt Castle of Ave Cars and Sunny Hussain of Cabco for all of the work that you've done on this and for the numerous meetings that you've attended. Next, I would just like to say something about the importance of the taxi and private hire trade and how important they are to the community. Effectively, this can't be underestimated. They drive our children to school, they help those with disabilities and additional needs to get around the district, and they play a significant economic role and are critical to the nighttime economy. So in presenting the policy today, I just want to recognise that. And basically, but that said, our colleagues from the trade, like ourselves, recognise that public confidence is absolutely everything, and that good regulation and a sound regulatory regime is not just desirable, but critical to the sector and to the public at large. So the policy that's before the committee today is designed to engender that critical public trust. The question for the committee, I suppose, really is this, is whether basically in presenting this policy, we have struck the right balance between good regulation and minimising the so-called regulatory burden. So good effective regulation or basically the regulatory burden. So during the initial consultation period, which took place some time ago, there was a large number of responses and these are published on the Council's consultation portal, to which members have been provided a link in the report. These are accompanied by officer commentary and they fell into a number of broad categories and those are bullet pointed in the report. I won't go through them, but they're set out in the report. Since the Council meeting in September, there have been at least, I think, 4 face-to-face meetings with the trade, with our colleagues that are here tonight. And there have also been numerous email exchanges, phone calls and things like that that have gone on in the background. These have followed up on a number of points raised in the formal consultation period. And as a result, a large number of changes have taken place to the policy, and many of those lead towards the trade's position that they were seeking. We've also worked on the principle that there should be sort of no so-called gold plating of this. So in effect, what we're saying is that the principle that the policy should require with comply with legal requirements or statutory guidance. An example of this, for example, would be in relation to tyres, where the initial draft proposal reported proposed minimum depths of tread of 2 millimetres. This now just refers simply to complying with the prevailing legislation under the road traffic laws. So a large number of other changes have been made. And this is not an exclusive list at all, but the type of things that have been changed in the policy from the original draft are the removal of the penalty point system for infractions of the policy, the removal of retrospective application of the policy to certain driving convictions, the change to the age requirement for certificates of good conduct from 10 years to 18 years, in line with the statutory guidance, and the removal of exemptions if these cannot be obtained on first application. There's also been changes to the age of vehicles at first licensing requirements, amended requirements for things like refresher training, amended requirements for training for drivers of wheelchair accessible vehicles, changes to record submission requirements for private hire operators, and the addition of a glossary, which hopefully helps both members and the trade. There are many other changes, as members will see from the track change version that has been circulated. I think it's fair to say there, however, remains one outstanding issue, one outstanding major issue, and it's fair to say that it's a significant issue for the trade. By way of background, the trade colleagues from the trade will have the history of this, but over 20 years ago, basically the council basically used to have a limit on the number of taxis that could be licensed in the borough of Newbury. The limit was subsequently taken off and a requirement was also introduced for taxis to be disabled access. Following a court case, permission was granted for the original taxis to remain as saloon cars. These became known as protected plays. Over time, these protections have been passed through family exemptions, and also basically there's been allowances for vehicles to be leased out. The trade have some significant concerns about this, and I'm sure we'll hear from the trade basically in a few minutes about that. And also basically, and particularly around the exemptions around these plates and the so-called family exemption. There has also been changes to the law basically since that court case, and all of that needs to be considered. I think it's fair to say that legally this is a complex issue that touches on not just licensing law, but public law and other changes in areas such as equalities that have taken place since the original decision. It is therefore proposed in the report that the council review the protected plates separately and bring back the findings and appropriate advice to this committee to determine whether there are any policy changes needed with respect to this area of the policy. The policy before the committee today represents the current position on the so-called family exemption, as it must until such time as the committee is in possession of all of the information it needs to consider any changes. But we do need to make progress on the remainder of the policy today, and that's the officer recommendation. Finally, it's acknowledged that there will be some need for some transition arrangements for parts of the policy, and there's a proposed delegation in the recommendations to facilitate this. There is also an acknowledgement that there is a need for an annual review of the policy to take place, and the first review will take place, I think, in the meeting in the summer of 2026. So we're not too far away from that, but there are delegations to do with immediate transitional arrangements. So, Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions. If there are any technical questions, I would, with your permission, like to invite the assistance of Julia O'Brien and Riley Timney, who is today. Thank you.
Yes, please do. Would you like to do that now, or shall we ask if there are any questions from the Trade Association?
Chair, it's up to you, but I'm happy to answer any questions on the report. I mean, it may well be in terms of moving forward with any debate the committee wishes to have to hear from the trade first, and then
fine. So we'll
take it from there.
Go to see if there's any immediate questions from members. None at the moment. Okay, thank you. So this is a very formal meeting of the committee. It's unlike our informal meetings that you have with councillors or that you actually have with officers. So we have to go through a procedure where we can allow you to speak. So if members are so wish, basically comes under section 10.7 of part 3 of the Constitution. Do I need
just propose to?
So I'll propose
to suspend the standing orders to allow the chair to allow trade to speak. Find a seconder, get a vote.
So I propose that we lift standing orders so that they can. And is the committee in agreement? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we have allocate 10 minutes for this. I mean, if you want to divide this amongst yourselves, would you like to take? We'll just ask the clerk to the meeting to time it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for giving us the opportunity to talk tonight. So first of all, I'd like to mention that we have been working with all the licensing officers probably more than a year now. I think last few months, we have been having a meeting with the licensing officer. And I'd like to also thanks to Councillor Tom McCann, who actually invited us for a meeting, which was a couple of 3 months ago. And we had a direct discussion with him. After the September, the meeting was cancelled. And we'd like to thank him for inviting us and apologize on behalf of council that what happened, which we really appreciate it. The policy, obviously, we have raised significant, in the past few months, significant error in the policy, and our concern that how badly it will affect as a trade, as a business, us when the policy had been implemented. So obviously, at the beginning, the officers could not be on the most of the issues. They did not agree with us. Afterwards, they did agree with certain things, which we raised on Sean actually mentioned that few things. Obviously, it's been corrected. Penalty point system been lifted, which is fine. The policy as it currents now, there is an error. There is a lot of error still there. Specifically, we raised the family exemption for the grandfather right plate. We did discuss that with the officers, and we did send an email. Our legal advisor also sent an email, which we did not get a response in regards to the grandfather right plate, which we believe on the report it said that it will be looking into it in the future, which is in 6 months' time or something. But when our main concern and the question to all of you tonight that when the officer were taking a legal advice on something, how it can be approved if it is raised on a consultation period. So it's been raised and it hasn't been addressed. The legal opinion awaiting is not done yet. So obviously that should have been dealt with it before the policy had been approved. So the policy also does not say about the implementation a cost assessment. There is no mention about the cost, which is obviously cost for the council and for the trade as well. For example, the training course, and I believe there will be additional training assessment, enhanced DBS check for operator and the vehicle provider, which is newly added. So there is no mention about cost, how it will be affected. That need to be addressed as well. Finally, I would like to say that we do want policy. That's why we've been working with the officers, that we do want a policy in West Berkshire, a proper policy without any issue in the policy that can be good for the public safety, as well as protect our drivers, our trade as well, our business as well. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Hussain. Mr. Councillor, Mr. Brown.
Oh. Good evening and thank you. Chairman, I'm back again. Version 9 or version 10? What is it? Back page says version 10, but never mind. We'll work on version 9. Firstly, we found this policy, having worked with the staff, the officers. It wasn't sent out to us like it was sent to you. We had to go and dig it out the internet. That's how we've come across it. This version wasn't shared, as I say, serious concerns. Here, 15 pages, that's just, we haven't got to page 32 yet within this new policy. These are the things wrong, not grammatical, not typing errors, things need addressing. One of your members here said, certificate, if insurance, in March, it's still here. You've got measurements in this policy which makes every newly licensed vehicle, if you was to pass this, become a black cab overnight. 2007, London introduced measurements, updated in July 25 this year, and it's been written into this policy. We can't accept that. 23% of the vehicles, we've got no timeframes, but 23, if you adopt this and it goes ahead, 23% of the vehicles can come off the road overnight being Euro 5 because you want Euro 6. I could go on, but I won't go on. When I said repetition, I was pointing out in March that if you looked at page 48, 16.6, sorry, wrong one there. Page 48, 16.6 states, agreed fare must show on the meter before letting the passenger out the vehicle. So we're going to hold a passenger to ransom because we've quoted them 14 quid, but the meter only says 13, so we've got to keep them there until it goes to £14. It's not written properly. Going on again, we're talking about pages 32, 14.4. It says the same thing in 14.6, 32, 4.15, says the same in 14.7. I'm not going to list them all. They're in there. And this is what we were trying to say last time, replication of the same thing. They're in the same section, just under a different number. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And next.
Thank you, Chair. I think the two gentlemen before me have said most of it. I mean, the biggest concern really is how can we actually be addressing a policy that the pivotal part of it hasn't been addressed, because it adjusts so much the balance in trade on the golden plates and golden tickets before we can't address that afterwards. We've been assuming that the legal advice was going to come back and there would be an adjustment to the policy. Without that, all this does is makes it even more unfair and makes the seesaw completely tip in favour of the grandfather plates. Thank you. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. That's it. We'll propose to instate standing orders. Is that seconded, please? Yeah, those four. Thank you. We'll continue with the meeting. So it's open to members who wish to speak on the report. Yeah. Anybody want to add anything to what we've got in front of us? Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, were you pointing at me or Councillor McCann?
I saw two.
Me, yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Marsh.
Thank you. Well, I've got three concerns really. One is about an implementation date of this, is when it's likely to be implemented. It doesn't seem to be mentioned. Secondly, it has been raised by the gentleman who's just been speaking, which is about the what they say is a failure to respond on the legal issue and our legal officers getting back to them, which does seem to be a concern. Most seriously, this what I now have learned are variously described as golden plates, golden tickets, acquired rights, family exemption and grandfather plates, which I've spent much of today, perhaps I should have done it sooner, but I've spent much of today finding out more about. I worked in Fleet Street for 30 years, and this has a bit of a feel of the Spanish customs that operated in that place, which, although I'm no fan of Margaret Thatcher, it's amazing that 50 years after she did away with the Spanish customs in Fleet Street, we still have grandfather plates in the taxi trade. But the concern, it seems to be, from talking to several representatives of the trade, is that the unequal playing field that will be created between, or is there now, but will be exacerbated by the fact that if you want a cab that meets the new requirements, and everybody wants to see wheelchair compliant taxis, it's obviously something that is desirable, and I don't think the trade are opposed to that. I'm certainly not. But if you want to do that, you're going to have to spend a huge amount of money, whereas which is obviously putting it in competitive difficulties with the people who still got the golden plates, the grandfather plates, who don't have to do this. And I just, however much I look at the report and however much I've read up on this, I can't see, perhaps the officers can help, but I cannot see an easy answer to this. And I can't see why we're passing the report before that's dealt with and saying, oh, we'll look at that later, when it does seem quite germane to the policy. And I'd like the discussion that Sean referred to as having, where we discuss this issue, might be done better before the policy is passed than after it, because this seems to me, I mean, there are others, as we've just heard from Richard, but this seems to be the biggest sticking point that's affecting the trade and causing concerns among them. And interestingly, as I gather, there are firms that benefit from this because they have a lot of grandfather plates, and there are firms that don't because they don't. But I think that an accommodation between those two sides, because you don't want to see a rift between different elements of the trade, I think an accommodation could be reached. For example, if the existing drivers were not affected by a removal of this system, but it was phased in over a period, so you can't inherit a grandfather plate, but if you've got one, you keep it. That's how it's generally been done in other areas of life. So that would be a suggestion worth looking at. And I just wonder really why we can't consider this issue before we pass the policy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Sean, would you like to address that? Or
I'll just address the point of the protected plates, if I can, Chairman. I mean, there was a couple of technical points that was raised in Richard's presentation, which I'll perhaps hand over to Julia to address if I can. Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated issue. Legally, it's a complicated issue. As you can imagine, any right basically is subject to views on, and there will be views on both sides of this argument. It is really important that basically that if there is to be any changes to that due process is followed. And part of that process is going to require the advice on the process that we need to bring the committee, we need to bring back to the committee. Whether we should be moving forward until this matter is resolved is clearly basically something for the committee. But we feel that basically there are safeguards set out in the report that basically if the policy is agreed, then there is the ability to make some minor amends to it. There is the ability to do with some transitional changes, and in the recommendations there is a commitment to a meaningful review of this issue of the protected plates. And a timescale set out. So in the policy, in the report, it doesn't talk about starting it in 6 months. It talks about completing it in the outside of 6 months, with 6 months as the outside timescale for that. And you know, the plan would be to complete it and bring any recommendations for change to the first review of the policy, which would take place basically next summer. In terms of the technical points on black cabs and things like that, I'll perhaps hand over to Julia. Just one point on the vehicle emission point. My understanding is I have not, without digging into the policy on the relevant bit, obviously the plan is to improve emissions of all of the vehicles, and basically to do that in a phased way. Now, I understand that there is a transitional timescale in the policy that deals with the move to Euro 6. But I mean, Euro 6 has been around now for many years, as many members of the committee will know. The other thing is I would say is that there has been, over the last 3 years, basically some financial support for the trade in terms of subsidy of licenses for electric vehicles and for hybrid vehicles. Now, that is in its 3rd year. It does expire this year, as was pointed out to me by a trade colleague, but we have had that basically incentive in place for 3 years, with this being the last year of that 3-year initial proposal around that.
Thank you. Julia O'Brien, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Chairman. Just to add in terms of Richard's queries regarding the certificate of insurance, I'm sure that we changed that when we had our meeting previously, and I apologise if it doesn't appear to have come out. And obviously, as Sean said, the legal, which to be fair, we have asked for at least 2 months, if not 3, that we're waiting for. But obviously, it's for members as to whether they feel they would prefer to look at the protected plate and grandfather rights issue before adopting the policy. And I think, Sean, you were talking about not implementing the policy for several months.
Chair, if I may respond to that. So I think basically the implementation of the policy will take effect if it's approved tonight, as it currently is. And it is acknowledged that basically within there, the policy has to reflect the reality of the situation as it is now with with the issue of the protected place. But as I say, with the proviso that there would be a full review of that. What we would do basically is move to a discussion very quickly on those areas of the policy that perhaps do require some transition for the trade. You'll see in the proposed delegations that there is a delegation for myself, in consultation basically with the chairman and vice chairman of the committee to agree those those transition arrangements basically to move the policy forward. But the feeling was that we bring the policy tonight as it was, and agree basically a full review in relation to the matter that's the main matter of contention.
Thank you. I'd like to just add a few explanations here. The protected plate review is being looked at, being taken separately from the policy. It's a diminishing issue. There used to be 75 plates. There are now 35 plates. So it's a problem that is going away on its own, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't leave it. I've discussed with Sean Murphy that we need to put caveats on the approval of this item, if that's what the committee is so minded to do, especially during the transitional period. We can't go, oh, today's the age of the vehicle, or the manager's enhanced DBS, or the certificate of good conduct would come in immediately, because that would be unfair. And I think this council's watchword is fairness. We're never, well, we're not saying never, I won't be so pessimistic, but I can't see we're always going to agree with everything that the trade comes at to us. We really try very, very hard. I know Councillor McCann and Mr. Murphy have gone the extra mile to get this right. So what we've got in here is we have to go forward at some point. And with these caveats that I've just mentioned, I feel that we have to go ahead because this is a matter of public protection as well. So it's not just about accommodating the taxi companies, it's also about looking after the members of the public, and we need to go forward now, is my personal opinion as chair. So that's why, if you look on the basically on the agenda item, you will see under recommendations, item number 2, that we've put that we approve the draft Hackney carriage and private hire licensing policy set out in the Annex A to the report, and that the committee delegates. So 2 delegates the authority to the service lead, public protection, which is Councillor McCann, and consultation with the chairman and vice chairman of the licensing committee to agree any transitional arrangements that will be required to put this through smoothly for the taxi. Item 3, we have we delegate the authority to the service lead. Again, as I mentioned, Councillor McCann and myself and Paul Dick, to make any minor revisions to the policies arising from the future changes to the Department of Transport guidance on any relevant changes to the legislation. And 4, we receive an update on the implementation as part of the annual report, along with the proposed updates or changes to the policy. And 5, agrees to undertake a review of the application of the policy with respect to the protected plates, section 20, appendix C, within the next 6 months, with a view of implementing any changes proposed at the time of the first annual review. So I think I've worked hard with the officers and with Councillor McCann to get this to a state where I feel as chairman I can recommend this to the committee. And would you have any final words, Mr. Murphy?
Chair, I just maybe worth saying that the points that Mr. Brown raised, basically on dimensions and insurance, if there are issues that we need to pick up, maybe the committee could approve the policy subject to those matters being picked up by
We can do those, certainly. Thank you. So I would like to propose from the chair, or Councillor Tim.
No, I was going to say, Chair, if you're proposing that, I'm prepared to second that.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Yeah, apologies. We'll hold that, and some councillors. Councillor Taylor.
Sorry, I was simply going to say, I thought Councillor McCann was going to make some remarks on this. I'd like to hear what he has to say.
I would never silence Councillor McCann ever. No.
I'm very observant. No, you were doing swimmingly well, Chair. Yes. What's before us this evening isn't the final end result, but what it is, in my opinion, is a very large step forward with built-in flexibility to allow not just trade to have input, but officers to get a feel how it works as well. And if the public want to feedback into that, that's not a problem at all. When I met the trade, I think it was the Monday after the 22nd of September, I undertook that this council will have the lightest touch possible in everything that it does with the taxi trade, that it will listen and adapt where the law and the guidance allows us to, but we cannot guarantee everything all the time. And I set a time scale, which is probably the fastest thing this council's done in years, as far as I can see. I set 90 days, and we're 4 away from it. So we've done a complete somersault. We have listened to everything I understand that. I've listened to everything that I can do. I think there's still work to be done. And in 3 years' time and 4 years' time, there'll be another strategy, and we will welcome your input. Thank you.
Please, this is a formal meeting. We've given you time to speak, and we.
So what I'd like to do, Chair, is with you and the members, I honestly feel we've done the best we can. It's taken nearly 5 years to get to here. If we don't get this over the line tonight, you might as well just not have a policy. And then we'd be breaking more laws and rules and regulations than you can shake a stick at, and you'd be so many legal actions. So I would happily suggest to members that they vote in favour of this, because I certainly would be.
Thank you very well said, Councillor McCann. Yes, Councillor Barnett, please.
Question, in view of what Tom's just said, obviously a policy is imperative to have in place. But in relationship to comments that have been made, which could, in effect, need some tweeting at some stage, is it going to be a case of tweeting as the appropriate time, or is it a case of gathering tweets and considering it for this committee, or how is it going to work? Because that's what I'm a little concerned about.
Personally, I'm going to look with Councillor McCann at a timetable, and as he gave a timetable before, we're going to do the same to put ourselves under pressure to actually implement this properly and well. I have also offered is that we're going to look at the way the process is done, and we don't just take one big lump policy and look at it all at one go, that we separate it, divide it, and each year take a section of it and review it. So it's a massive task. And to get here, I think that's been half the difficulty, is just that there's so much to do, and we need to cut it out down to smaller parts, and I think that would help us. So I do understand that it's not 100% accommodation for the trade, but we also have to think of the public welfare in this, and now we have a proposal and a seconder, and I would ask for those in favour, please vote. Sorry? I'm sorry, I thought we had a proposal seconder. My apologies. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor. I didn't realise you wanted to speak a second.
I wanted to hear what other councillors had to say, and it just seemed like we're rushing this.
No, not
through.
meant.
Well, that's what I'm certainly sensing here.
Councillor Taylor, there's no sense of rushing this through. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand for a second time. Please go ahead.
I think all I really want to say is I feel rather uncomfortable about adopting this policy in view of what I've heard earlier in this meeting. Also, I mean, the suggestion that if we don't approve the policy, we don't have a policy at all. Surely we've got an existing policy that will continue to run. I see a nodding of a head there, but perhaps someone can explain why an existing policy wouldn't remain in place until a new policy is adopted. Also, there were other comments made about versions of documents and that one of the speakers referred to. I mean, that also troubles me, that people haven't seen the documentation. You know, he's having to search around the internet to find the documents because they haven't been sent directly to him. I just worry that we're rushing this through, and that my preference, I think, would be to delay a decision until these issues are resolved.
May I ask the officer to clarify that point for you?
I mean, obviously there was multiple meetings with representatives of the trade, and obviously there have been a number of versions of this document that have been previously circulated. I don't know what specific has been referred to, but clearly, basically, the final version of the document, which was the committee version, did come out basically in the public papers. But that was only a few days after the last meeting, as I understand it. Which was that week, actually, basically when the papers were released. Now, I understood that basically the changes had been made that were needed to be made from that meeting. Going back to your question about policy, there isn't a policy at the moment. There are conditions that we have on the issue of certain licences, but the statutory guidance says there should be a policy, basically, and that is what's here before the committee today. So it is the draft. I think, as many members have alluded to, it is a living document. Basically, it will need to be reviewed. There is the commitment within the paper to review it every year. But the policy is set out before the committee tonight with the proviso that there would be a review on that substantive point, basically, of the protected place.
Thank you. Councillor Vickers.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, there's talk about having meetings, if we approve this policy, having additional meetings. I mean, what's the time frame for having those extra meetings to deal with the points that are that the trade are most concerned about? How soon would one have them?
We have an informal meeting with the Taxi Association on the 6th of January. That's the Tuesday, so that will kick it off immediately. And as I said, Councillor McCann and myself would create a timetable as to what we would follow. And I have said already that we have quite a few caveats and delegated powers and issues down to myself, Councillor McCann and Councillor Dick, to actually go through these items and make sure that they are fit and make sure that they have a responsive transitional period, so it doesn't just kick in tomorrow. Does that reassure you, Councillor Vickers?
Well, I mean, that sounds good. I mean, obviously, ideally, decisions should be taken by this committee. And
yes.
So I'm a little bit confused about why these issues couldn't have been dealt with before we got the policy here before us, but, you know.
Well, it's been an extensive consultation, and as I say, there's a huge amount of things to be considered, and getting them all together, all at the same time, is an enormous task. It's like the task of Hercules, trying to get it done together. And we really appreciate that it's not 100%, but we believe it's in a very good position, and that we can carry this forward with the consultation and discussions further. Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to echo what you've just said. I feel comfortable enough to think that we are never going to get over the line at all if we don't accept this policy at some point. We can go to version 25 if we carry on and keep meeting once a month. This document is way too big, as you've already told us. We should have perhaps years ago had sections of it to see it in part. To do such a new policy as this, following directives from the government, I notice it's new government directives that have asked us to bring this policy in. It's a huge thing. And bear in mind, there's been over 80 responses to the consultations. The taxi trade has not been silent on this. We have heard many, many things from them over the period. And certainly we've heard them in this room 2 or 3 times already. So what I'm happy about is that it's not in concrete. Anything the taxi trade finds it is not working, they can come to us and things will be done about that. Amendments may be needed. It is, I think, as you said, a working document, not something that's set out to hang people or to break the trade or whatever else we're going to hear. But I really think not having a policy is not a suitable position for this council to be in.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Kander?
Yes, thank you. So I guess picking up on Councillor Vickers' question in terms of timescales, seems we have a struggle getting the legal feedback. Is there any way we can nail them to the wall to give us a date?
I think because the executive member for public protection may be able to elucidate for you.
Just because as part of the report, you said 6 months, and then as per the annual review.
I'll ask Councillor McCann to clarify.
I'll get the head of legal personally to explain what the problem is. So I will do everything I can to pull the levers at my hands to make sure that this committee isn't let down again, nor indeed the Taxi Service again. I'm getting delayed information, which is clearly necessary for us to perform our functions and our legal duties.
Okay, thank you.
So, sorry, I haven't quite finished. So,
No, please go ahead.
fundamentally, I think having a policy is better than not having a policy. As I've mentioned to you already before earlier, and as mentioned by Councillor Taylor as well, I have an issue with agreeing a policy where there's something that seems to be quite fundamental to the trade that's being left outstanding, which is why I'm keen to understand timescales. And likewise, like Councillor Stevenson, I'm happy that this is a living document that we as a committee can therefore change as and when we have the relevant information.
That is
As long as
exactly what I
there,
was trying to
then-
say.
Okay.
Believe it or not, there may be some doubters here, but my watchword is fairness. And to be fair to the trade associations and to be fair to the members of the public and to be fair to our officers and to be fair to all of our councillors here who have put in a huge amount of time and effort to get it to this point. And I assure you, with Councillor McCann and Paul Dick, we will work together to make this happen. And are there any further questions? I don't want to miss anybody. No, thank you. So we have a...
Chair, can I just pick up on the point that Councillor Cantor made? I think what I can say is that this review will start straight away in the new year, basically. So everything is lined up in terms of the provision of the advice and everything else, basically, but this review will start in the new year. And it was just felt that basically that it was the best situation was to get the bulk of the policy over the line. And basically pick up this point at the very first review, which is to take place. It is a complex legal issue. It is a complex issue. I think the trade would acknowledge that. But it is one that has to be handled properly. But what I can do is to give this commitment to the committee that basically the review that is recommended in there will start immediately in the new year.
Councillor Cantor? That's good. Any others? Thank you very much indeed. We have a proposal and a seconder for this item. Those who are in favour, please show hands. And against? And abstentions? That motion is carried. Thank you very much indeed. So this motion has now been carried and we will continue our discussions and working together with the Trade Association. So I close the meeting. As the business has been concluded, I would like to thank all of those in attendance and officially close the meeting. For the next full meeting of this committee will be held on the 19th of January, but that's the committee. We will be having an informal meeting on the 6th. Thank you very much indeed. Wait till we've gone offline.